Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling something you probably think you know pretty well. Impressionism. You know, Monet, Renoir, peaceful, lovely paintings, sunlight picnics, water lilies.
Right, that's the image now. Peaceful, almost decorative sometimes. But rewind to 19th century Paris.
And it's a completely different story.
Exactly. These same paintings, the ones we see as beautiful, were actually considered, well, dangerous, sloppy, radical, accused of being like artistic treason, even stirring up social trouble.
That's the paradox we're digging into today. How did this art movement focused on light and capturing a quick moment cause such an explosion? We're talking Monet, Degas, Renoir, seen as basically rebels.
And our mission here is to really unpack why.
Right.
What specific choices, technically, thematically, did they make that just completely shook the foundations of the French art world at the time?
We're tracing that journey, from total outrage to becoming these universally loved classics. It's a familiar pattern, isn't it? Real innovation often gets slammed first.
Absolutely. And to really get the scale of their rebellion, you first have to understand what they were actually pushing against, the establishment.
Okay, let's set that scene. What was this power structure they were up against? It wasn't just a few grumpy critics.
Oh, not at all. It was institutional. The big one was the Paris Salon. Think of it not just as an exhibition, but pretty much the only way to succeed as an artist.
A gatekeeper.
Totally. It was backed by the Académie des Beaux-Arts. Very powerful. The Salon had, a monopoly on what was considered good or worthy art. It shaped taste, who got commissions, public opinion.
And crucially, an artist's ability to actually make a living.
That's it. So if the Salon didn't approve your work, didn't select it for their massive annual exhibition.
It wasn't just a bad review. It was like game over.
For many, yes. The stakes were incredibly high. The Salon demanded art, followed really strict rules. They favored huge paintings, subjects from history, mythology, religion, art that was supposed to teach morals or celebrate the state.
Very grand, very traditional.
Very. And if you got rejected, your career could just stall permanently.
Okay, I get the pressure then. Conform or, starve. But why couldn't artists just, sell elsewhere? Why did the Salon have such absolute power?
Because the whole system, buyers, critics, the government, was conditioned to see the Salon's approval as the only mark of quality. Without it, good luck getting patrons, gallery space, any kind of legitimacy. But the Impressionists, they saw this system, this focus on polish and, frankly, old-fashioned subjects as completely out of touch with modern life.
Stifling.
So they decided to break free.
They had to. They basically had to create their own world, their own exhibitions just to get seen.
Which leads us right to the paintings themselves, because once they did get seen, these independent shows, the critics looked at the canvases and were just appalled.
Viscerally, yes.
So what was the number one issue? The main technical crime that caused the first wave of shock. It was what they immediately called the unfinished look. If you look at an academic painting from back then, the surface is smooth, polished, almost like glass. Every detail is perfect.
You're meant to look through the paint, not at it.
Precisely. But the Impressionists, you see the paint, you see the brushstrokes, quick, visible, sometimes thick dabs of color.
Choppy, almost hurried looking.
Exactly that. And those visible strokes screamed speed. And speed was seen as, unprofessional, amateurish, not serious.
So the critics basically said these guys can't even finish a painting properly.
That was the line. Mere amateurs. But, this wasn't laziness. It was actually central to what they were trying to do.
Which was?
Capturing the moment. They were often painting outdoors on plein air, trying to catch the way light shifts, how the atmosphere feels. That changes second by second.
Okay. So the quick brushstrokes weren't sloppy. They were necessary to grab that fleeting effect before the light changed completely.
That's the crucial idea. They were painting the sensation of seeing, the impression of light and color, not some fixed, idealized version of reality.
So they weren't interested in that perfect photographic finish?
Not at all. And for the establishment, that disinterest in meticulous, idealized reality felt like a betrayal of what art was supposed to be.
Okay, so the unfinished look was strike one. Then there was the color. You mentioned color chaos. What was so wrong with their colors?
Traditional painting had rules, especially for shadows. You used, browns, blacks, grays, earth tones mixed carefully. You followed established theories about complementary colors to create harmony.
Predictable, balanced.
Right. The Impressionists just tossed those rules out. They looked closely at shadows outdoors and realized...
They aren't just gray.
Exactly. They're full of reflected light, full of color. So they started using vibrant blues, deep purples, even greens in the shadows. And their highlights could be unexpectedly bright yellows or oranges.
Making the whole canvas vibrate with color.
An incredible vibrancy, yes. It makes the light feel almost tangible, like it's physically in the paint. Think of Monet's water lilies.
Like that bridge over a pond of water lilies. The blues and purples in the water under the bridge. Those weren't just pretty choices.
They were deliberate acts of defiance against color theory. Critics saw it as an attack, an assault on classical harmony, they called it. Too loud, too raw. It messed with people's expectations of beauty.
Wow. Okay, so technique and color were major offenses. But then we get to subject matter, and this is where it feels like it gets really provocative, almost political.
I think so too. Because they didn't just change how they painted, but what they painted. They completely abandoned the required grand themes.
No more gods, no more historical battles.
Yep, gone. Instead, they painted modern life. Ordinary people doing ordinary things.
Like what?
People strolling in the new Paris boulevards, workers like laundresses, men rowing boats, ballet dancers rehearsing, cafes, train stations, picnics. The everyday stuff.
Scenes we find charming now. But back then, painting a picnic, like in Renoir's work, was considered, audacious.
Staggering audacity, yes. Remember, the Salon believed art should elevate, instruct, deal with big ideas. Painting someone ironing clothes or having lunch outdoors, that was seen as trivializing art, making it commonplace.
Critics were genuinely upset that these, mundane moments were being treated as worthy subjects for serious painting.
Genuinely appalled, yes. It implied that any moment, any person's experience could be important, not just kings or saints.
So by painting the ordinary, they were kind of democratizing art, taking it away from just the elite subjects.
That's a great way to put it. They were making art about the world people actually lived in, creating a more direct connection to that rapidly changing modern experience.
And this connects to another point, focusing on individual perception instead of universal truths.
Exactly. Academic art aimed for timeless ideals, moral lessons. The Impressionists were about capturing a specific person's view, a subjective feeling, a fleeting moment in time. Think of Manet's boating. It's that particular moment, those people.
Not a general statement about boating.
Right. And critics hated that too. They argued this subjective focus undermined art's role in reflecting shared societal values or teaching lessons. It was too personal, too momentary.
Okay, this shift to the modern, the everyday, the personal view, that takes us straight into the really intense social context. Section 4, this wasn't happening in a vacuum. France was jumpy, right? Post-commune.
Extremely jumpy. This is vital. France had just gone through the disastrous Franco-Prussian War and then the incredibly violent Paris Commune uprising in 1871. There was huge social anxiety, political instability.
And the government, the establishment, was trying to restore order, clamp down on anything that seemed disruptive.
Desperately. They were pushing for tradition, hierarchy, control. So in that atmosphere, when a group of artists rejects all the established artistic rules, the style, the subjects, even the exhibition system itself.
It doesn't just look like bad art. It looks like rebellion, like another form of challenging authority.
It absolutely did. Any break from tradition could be seen as revolutionary, politically dangerous. And then the Impressionists did something crucial. Frustrated by Salon rejection, they organized their own independent exhibitions, starting in 1874.
Bypassing the official system entirely.
Which was a massive act of defiance. It wasn't just about showing art, it was creating a parallel structure. In post-commune Paris, that looked suspiciously like political organizing. It cemented their rebel label.
And the actual content, the paintings of city life, industry, leisure, that was seen as threatening too.
Yes, because it reflected the reality of modern life, which was messy, fast-paced, and unsettling to many. The unfinished look, the speed and the brushstrokes, seemed to mirror the chaos and flux of industrialization.
Instead of calm, controlled history paintings.
They were painting noisy train stations, crowded streets, the anonymity of the modern city. Critics felt this focus on modernity, like in Degas, a patent office in New Orleans, which shows global commerce in action. Well, it highlighted social tensions, uncertainties. It wasn't the idealized France the establishment wanted to project.
So they weren't just seen as bad artists, but as potentially agents of social upheaval.
That was the fear, that their art, by reflecting and maybe even celebrating modernity and rejecting tradition, was somehow contributing to social breakdown.
It's amazing how aesthetic choices got tangled up with these huge political fears. Rejecting smooth paint equals rejecting social order.
It sounds extreme now, but in that specific historical moment, the connection seemed very real to them. The state wanted control, predictable narratives. The Impressionists offered subjective, unpredictable glimpses of reality. That felt dangerous.
So after all this backlash, this decade or more of being rebels and outcasts, what was the final result? What's the lasting impact of this rebellion?
Well, ironically, by being rejected so forcefully, they ended up changing everything. Their radical break paved the way for basically all of modern art.
How so?
Their experiments with color, light, brushwork, and that focus on subjective experience directly influenced the post-impressionists like Van Gogh and Gauguin, then the Fauves with their wild colors, and you could even trace lines to early abstraction. They blew the doors open.
And it wasn't just the style, it was the attitude. You mentioned they created the model for the avant-garde.
That's arguably their biggest legacy, that spirit of independence, deciding to go it alone, organize their own shows, define success on their own terms, like showing innovative works like Degas' Dance Foyer paintings. That created the blueprint for future generations of artists.
The idea that artists should push boundaries, experiment, even if the establishment hates it.
Exactly. They validated that whole ethos. Their struggle basically liberated artists from the absolute tyranny of academic tradition.
A legacy of liberation that continues today.
Absolutely. It's a constant reminder that challenging norms is often necessary for art and culture to move forward.
So, wrapping this up,
Right.
What's the big takeaway for us looking back at these now beloved paintings? It seems the lesson is that truly groundbreaking work often faces a fight.
Definitely. Creativity rarely gets an easy pass, especially when it challenges the status quo. The Impressionists didn't just capture light, they captured a moment of necessary cultural friction and change. Their initial rejection isn't a footnote. It's central to their importance.
Their story validates the struggle.
And that enduring appeal, that idea of rebellion for authenticity, for new ways of seeing, it still resonates. Which leads to a final thought for you, the listener.
Okay.
You can look back now and clearly see the Impressionist innovation. But think about today. What art, what practice, maybe what idea is being dismissed right now, called sloppy or trivial or not real art by the current establishment? Yeah. What is being rejected today that might, decades from now, be seen as something that fundamentally shifted our perspective, that broke new ground? Recognizing that potential, even amidst criticism, that's carrying forward the real spirit of the Impressionist rebellion.